everybody, I'm Jo Paul and I'm an indie author, and today we're going to be talking about killing your darlings. Excuse the penny pasta, she climbs me like a tree when I sit down to record and I can't get her to get down, so yeah, I'm stuck with her. Killing your darlings is a phrase that comes up a lot. People talk about it and sometimes it's taken to mean characters, but the true meaning is all wrapped up in killing those perfect pieces of prose that just don't work in the story. So here are my 5 tips about killing your darlings. Number 1. Save it for later. Sometimes it's a phrase or scene that you really love, or it's something that can be used either later in the current works or in another work completely. So even though you need to remove it, don't delete it completely. I can't tell you the number of times I've done this and then regretted it because it can be used later, so don't make that mistake. It's part of editing that nobody enjoys, but it's something that needs to happen. So even though you hate removing it from the book, tuck it away somewhere and hope that maybe you can use it later. If you can't, then it's no loss and it's the best thing for your work. Which leads to number 2. Sometimes they have to die. Sometimes, no matter how beautiful the prose or dialogue or scene, it just needs to die. You'll save it for later and know that it's never going to see the light of day. And that's okay. Sometimes saving it for later is giving yourself permission to start to let go of it, which I know sounds dramatic, but it can be hard to cut a scene that doesn't work. I know there have been times when I've tried to rework a scene so that line or dialogue or whatever can stay, but it's not worked because it's not okay to be part of the story. It's too telly, or it's too bland, or it's just too much information than is needed, and it sucks, but sometimes you have to kill your darlings and be okay with that. Bringing me to number 3. Remember that it's needed for the story. The whole point of this is to make your story better. While it sucks and while it's hard, it's needed for the story. And that's why we're killing our darlings, because it's what we have to do for us to tell the best story we can tell. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's part of editing and it's something that does get somewhat easier with time. When I first edited a book, I found it so hard to kill those pieces of text that I loved so much, to the point that I would save them and try and slip them in elsewhere. Now though, the passage of time and growing as a writer means that I don't find it so hard to kill those darlings. There are whole scenes from Walk a Mile that my editor looked at and said, nope. And it was painful, yes, but it needed to be done. So when you're sat there either on your first lot of self-edits or your beta edits or your editor edits and you're being told that this scene or whatever doesn't work, you need to remind yourself that it's what's needed. It's the whole point of the editing process and it needs to happen so that you can tell the best story you can tell. But yeah, it does suck. Accept that, breathe and move on. Going back to give you some hope though, number 4. Rephrasing can sometimes work. Sometimes it's not the whole scene that needs to go, sometimes it's a case of working through the clunky parts and finding a way to include it. That does happen. There was a scene in 4th Week which I adored. I felt like I was in the zone writing it, and because of that produced a really clean scene, and then my editor read through it and she made a point that I'd not thought of, and I was facing having to cut this amazing scene. So we sat down and we worked out how to keep the scene itself, the bare bones as it were, but change the pieces that didn't work, and we managed it. So going back to point 1, save what you can't bear to part with, because it might be that it's usable in some other way. It won't be the exact same scene, but it might be enough of it that you feel happier having saved it. And finally, number 5. It happens to us all. There is no writer in the history of ever who hasn't had to kill a few darlings. Sure, some of us do it less than others, and some do it without hesitation, and all of that is okay. But when you're sitting at the editing table and you're thinking, why me? Just remember that it happens to all of us. And all of us had those forgotten scenes and pieces of dialogue and prose that we've adored but had to cut. Part of writing is that we had to sacrifice for the better of the story. And yeah, it sucks, and yeah, it's hard, but it's the best thing we can do for our story. So while you may moan to your writer friends about this scene you just had to cut, remember that we've all been there and we all sympathise. It's part of the job. You gotta kill some darlings. So those are my 5 tips when it comes to killing darlings. I have written scenes that I have been so happy with and then had to go back and either cut completely or strip down to the bare bones and rework from the ground up. and it's soul crushing at times, because you just sit there and you look at it and you just think, why, this is so perfect, and the reason is that it doesn't work, and that's okay, and we've got to work with what we've got. So just remember that and keep focused on getting your story to the best point that it can be at. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media, and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to pre-order Dying Thoughts 7th Death for 99p. All the links for which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing. Bye.